Do you want to know what's going on? Do you really want to know what's going on? All right. When Eisenhower left office, he gave a speech about the military industrial complex. At the time, they were only a threat. But over time, they started merging with the media, big corporations, and so forth and so on. And eventually, it became a monster. And in order to control that monster, they brought in paganism, where you had to perform in what they called sacred rituals and so forth and so on in order to establish your loyalty. And depending on what you were willing to do, would determine how far you would progress in the organization. And as the years went by, they started cementing their power. Then along came Kennedy, who knew all about it, who was not unlike our current president, grew up in the system and he knew how it worked. And they totally expected him to go along with it. And when he didn't, when he showed his patriotism and tried to turn against the system, they took his ass out. But the damage to the military industrial complex, or what's called the deep state today, set them back. So they had to take their time and rebuild their organization and consolidate their power and so forth and so on. And along come Ronald Reagan, who knew all about their system and what they were trying to do, but believed in his country and tried to steer it back away from where it was going. And for his troubles, they tried to take his ass out. But by that time, they had become what their philosophy is: too big to fail. We've all seen this before. They've used it in the banking system and so forth and so on to gain control and game the system in their favor. And the whole time, they're doing their pagan rituals in order to maintain control over the people who are in their organizations and determine who's willing to go that far in order to improve their status along the way. And after Reagan came presidents who were down for the system, who participated in the things that the deep state, as we call it today, were doing in order to further their political power and their profit margin in order to gain status within the organization. And it was that way for quite some time. And they were just about ready to close the trapdoor on America, because a strong America is not conducive to what they want to do to the world, which is introduce world government. During the 2016 election, Obama came out and campaigned for Hillary, something I'm convinced that he didn't want to do. But along the way, he kind of let the cat out of the bag, because I believe it was her last or his last campaign speech for her that he said on several occasions that she was the only one that could do the job. It was her job to betray the American public and the United States and usher us into what they called their New World Order, which is global government. And when she didn't get elected, and somebody who got in, who once again wasn't under their control, they had to expose themselves because things had progressed to the point, or have progressed to the point, where it's all or nothing at this point. They're either able to pull off what they were trying to do or bust. And that's why they have exposed themselves at every turn along the way in their fight against Donald Trump. Because they really don't have a choice. Because there is no turning back at this point. Because their philosophy is, we're too big to fail. We control everything. And that's why it's been a slow drip of information. That's why things have played out publicly the way they have, in the hopes that the American people, who still have the upper hand at this point, but don't realize it, understand what's going on and push back against it on their own. Eventually, we're all going to have to make a choice. What's more important? Your freedom or your life? Or at least wise, that's where they'd like to push it. And that's what's been going on, and that's what's going to continue to go on until the American public finally wakes the fuck up. Because everything changed in 2016, or all of these things that have happened since would not have happened.